Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This show is part of the HeadStuff podcast network.
Lovely stuff.
Hello there, and you're very welcome to a very special episode of The Lovely Show. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We've partnered with Childline by ISPCC, and Justine and I will be stepping into the shoes of Childline's dedicated volunteer team to help answer some real questions from real children.
Yes, exactly.
100% real kids.
100% that.
Guaranteed.
Yes. Because in 2023 alone, Childline spent over 1.1 million minutes listening to and supporting children and young people across Ireland, whether they're reaching out in moments of crisis, seeking advice, or just needing someone to talk to. Childline is there as Ireland's only dedicated listening service, available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yes, the questions we're going to be looking at today have all been submitted through Childline's Ask the Team feature on their website, where young people can anonymously ask questions to share what's on their mind. So if you have any questions and you're feeling weird about asking them, just go onto the website.
Yeah.
You don't have to give a name.
You don't have to give a name. You don't have to speak out loud. If you're anxious about it, go straight onto the site and type it in.
You could create a fake name.
You could. Get creative.
Goldorf.
Yeah. Christine. They'll never guess it's Justine.
So we've selected a number of questions. There was a lot of questions submitted, but we don't have time to go through them all. So we just kind of picked a few.
That we feel we have experience in as well to give our advice.
There was some questions that we are dangerously unqualified to answer.
Yes, exactly.
But we thought we'd do our best. We were teenagers at one point.
We were not that long ago, Kevin. Let's not be crazy.
It was before 9/11 for me. I know it was around 9/11 actually. So,
So not that long ago.
But we were anxious, weird little kids who were terrified of the world and our peers. So I think we got a lot of stories in our back catalogue.
Totally. And I'll be honest, if the tech service had existed at that point, I would have been using it for various moments
100%.
in my adolescence.
Lovely stuff.
All right, so the first question we're going to cover is a pretty basic one that just sort of covers everything. Can you text Childline if you're not in danger?
See, this is one that I would have never thought to even ask. Because I think you naturally assume it must be for that reason, but that's not the truth.
Not the truth at all. It's not just if you're, in danger, if you're having a moment of crisis, if you're looking for advice, or if you just need someone to chat to.
It's there.
It's there.
And I think that's something that not everyone is aware of, because I would have always perceived it as a service for just crisis moments.
Yeah.
And it's so great that it goes beyond that, because when I look back at my experience as a teenager, there would have been times it would have been lovely just to chat to someone.
Just have someone to chat to. A kind ear.
A kind bloody ear.
When you're feeling vulnerable.
Yeah, when you're feeling, or you're just like, rural Ireland can be rural.
Yeah.
And I was playing with a crucifix to pass the time, Kevin, in the past.
Justine was chatting to farm animals.
Yeah. My dog got sick of listening to me. He was like, well, you go away and annoy the cat.
Your dog went off to live on a farm somewhere. And it wasn't even like the mother driving away. The dog just left.
He left. Packed his own bags, took the car.
You have a question here that I was going to cover, but I think you should probably cover it.
It feels more one for me, yeah. This is a question in how do you wear a bra comfortably? And this is something I honestly can go back to being a teenager and struggling with because, again, it was
and in your late
something-
20s.
And in my late 20s and early 30s to this day. And that's a very accurate point because so many women still don't know their correct bra size. And I think when you're a teenager, you feel as though you're not able to really talk to other teenagers about it. You feel like you're meant to figure this out and know.
Well, how do you measure your bra size?
So the thing that I did with my mother was that we went to, there's different shops that can actually offer a service. Marks and Spencer's is a great one that you can go in and they will fit you. And it's really like, you think you're going in with your mother and it's going to be embarrassing, but it's really not because they're dealing with this constantly.
Every
People
day.
are coming in to get sized
Everybody
up
needs a
correctly.
bra.
Everybody. And what's worse is if you're going around wearing it in the wrong size because you can be hurting your back or it's just not fitting properly and then you're like pulling at it the whole time. So that was the best thing that I did as a teenager, going in and properly getting measured because even I would have tried to have done it on my own. But you don't know what you're doing and the measuring tape is going all over the place and you're doing 2 loops around yourself and you haven't a clue.
Is it a teacup? Is it a coffee cup?
So,
a pint glass?
A pint glass. And then
I can fill half a pint.
You know, measuring your chest, and I was measuring my stomach probably, and that was a lot bigger than the bra should have been, you know.
So the main thing is have a correct measurement.
Have a correct measurement done.
Go into
and
Marks and Sparks.
Marks and Sparks, and it is not something to be embarrassed about because I know at that time as well, I didn't say to other kids that I was going to get that done. And then after the fact, found out a load of other people in my class had done the exact same thing. We were all just too afraid to say to each other.
I think that's going to be a recurrent theme to a lot of these questions is everyone feels when they're a teenager that they're the only one
going through
suffering
it.
from this weird problem.
It's that, and it's because it's the first time you've experienced it in your life. You feel like this is like end of world, the pressure and intensity of this moment.
But the point is, everyone
is feeling that same,
Everyone's feeling
same
the
way.
Question here: what does your first kiss mean to you?
Yeah, now this is exactly what we can, as we just mentioned, this is one where you go through it and it feels like the biggest moment in your life to date, probably for a lot of people.
It's a big milestone.
It is an absolutely huge milestone and you're going into it with
Communion.
zero
Confirmation, first shift.
And for some people, I'll say Kevin, I was a late bloomer. I was frigid for a long time.
What
and
age?
I'm not ashamed to say that.
What age?
I was 16, could have been 17. We don't know. We'll speculate.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But I think as well...
Did you practice on your hand? Or your dog?
I watched a lot of reruns of Friends, and when I'd see them kissing, I'd be taking notes.
Yeah.
Because they seem to have it figured out. But I think it's one of those moments as well where you feel such pressure because other people in your class or your friend group are getting their first kiss and you feel additional pressure because of that.
My first shift, I was a real romantic young boy.
Go on. What happened to you?
So just the weight of the world just eroded me every so often. But I had a crush, I had a couple of crushes and I wanted them to be my first kiss.
Wow, you had a couple of options for your first kiss. You absolute.
Okay, so
in
first year I had a crush.
Here I was struggling to get one to even
In
shift
first
me.
year I had a crush and it just wasn't working out at all.
Yeah.
She had no interest in me.
Okay.
So then I had to develop a second crush and she also had no interest in me at all. So I remember we were in first year and we were on a school tour and everyone was shifting.
Yeah.
I think our class was particularly shifty. Everyone was just shifting everything.
Right.
People are going crazy.
Mad.
So there was a lot of pressure to shift.
Yeah.
And I hadn't got my first shift. And we were on the bus and I think somebody was like, hey, will you shift Janine?
Dares used to be a lot on the bus.
Dares
weren't
were
they?
handy way into it. So the girl I liked was telling me to kiss another girl.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh no, I don't know. And she was like, you should. And she was really putting pressure. She was like, everyone's doing it. You should do it. Like, they'll think you're weird if you don't. And I basically shifted to please her.
Oh my God.
And I wasn't,
What a love triangle.
it wasn't. The girl was lovely.
Yeah.
The shifty.
Yeah.
She was lovely, but I just
didn't have your heart.
She didn't have my heart.
Because my first shift was with my best friend who I had fancied for years, but he'd always come to me with like love poems to give to the girl he fancied, and I'd be the messenger, which broke my heart. But I, unlike you, stayed dedicated, and I was like, I'm going to win him round. It's going to happen.
How did that work out?
Well, we're not together. We're still best friends though, so it's good. But we were on a bus being dared, and they dared both of us to kiss. And what was funny was we had like this big like AGM meeting about it on a wall. We were like, are we going to do this now? What are we going to do all together? And it was a real lovely moment.
Somebody
because,
taking minutes.
as it turned out, it was going to be his first kiss as well.
Oh, that's cute.
So it was really sweet. But the moment, now we kissed under a hoodie on the back of the bus. My friend Brian held it up.
Like you're taking an old-timey photograph. Or you're coming out of court.
Because it was our first kiss. We didn't know what we were doing and how long. And we stopped, obviously. And then Brian was like, no, you have to hold it for 10 seconds or it doesn't count.
Stop
so
putting
the
rules.
whole bus did a countdown on us kissing. But in that moment, I lost my whole attraction to this guy.
Wow.
That was me cured.
The mystery was gone.
The mystery was gone.
But I think the main point is don't feel pressure.
Don't rush into it.
Don't rush into anything. Don't even do it if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And also, everyone's first kiss is kind of meaningless.
And it's not going to be good. I don't think anyone's first kiss is going to be at all.
Don't expect it to be like
fireworks.
A fireworks end of a Disney movie.
It's not.
It's probably going to be crap enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, don't get too stressed out about it.
Totally. And I'll be honest, I kind of think it's cool that I was a late loser of my virginity because, it really, don't give it away too soon. If you're not ready, don't feel pressured into it. That's the point. When you're ready and comfortable.
It's not that big a deal.
At the time, it can feel like that.
It can feel like the hugest event on the planet.
On the planet. It'll be on Sky News, but it won't be, I promise you.
Meath child, Justine Stafford, got her first shift today, age 16 and a half. We go now to the French president for his comments. As the first French kiss, we are very excited in France for Justine.
They held for 10 seconds, so it counts.
It was the official 10-second mark was hit, so we're all very, very excited for Justine.
Justine, exactly. My name is French. Now, this is one a bit more serious.
Okay.
How can I talk to my mom about my anxiety? Mm-hmm. This is definitely one, again, that from my own experience in adolescence, it's a very difficult moment where you're experiencing these kind of difficulties with your mental health and it's hard to open up. And I know something that I felt at the time was, I don't want to let my mother down, which was an insane...
I don't want to worry her.
I don't want to worry her because I'm worried.
Yeah.
Now we're both worried, But I think the best thing to do is to talk to your parents about that because it will help instantly. Mm-hmm. Because I think you go into it feeling like, they won't understand. And I think that's a huge thing as a teenager to feel that way. But as you get older, you realise, they understood so much actually, as it turns out. But I do think there's definitely a feeling of fear in that moment, and I just from personal experience think it was the best thing I did because it opened up opportunities to get help for it, to look into possible ways to make it easier to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And the other thing as well is you realise from opening up, maybe your parents have gone through similar things and are able to share their experiences with it and help. And I just know, again, because you're going through times like exams, I got so bad with anxiety, eating disorders that I had that were kind of used in a way to try and distract her as a cope mechanism. Very not helpful at all. But these kind of, your mind can really take over when you're being put under severe pressure in schools and in exams. It's only natural. And again, I think in opening up to your mother about it, you'll realise as well, if you become more comfortable talking about it, a lot of your friends are probably going through similar feelings as well of anxiety in these moments.
And did you go to your mum with...
I think initially I'd gone to a teacher because it was just quite severe in school on a day-to-day basis, and it just became something that I couldn't really cope with anymore. And so then my teacher advised me to talk to my parents about it, and I think I had done that, and then later on in the school year we'd had meetings, and parent-teacher meetings would have been brought up with how's Justine dealing with her anxiety and all the stresses she's under, and it was just so much easier. Again, any trusted kind of adult figure I would go to, if you feel more comfortable opening up to a teacher or someone like that in your life before your parents, just to have someone to open up to about who can give you the correct advice and like steer you to get help.
I think, well, you know, the old phrase, like a problem shared is a problem halved. I think that's so true. For some reason, when I was a child and a teenager, if I had a problem, the idea of like sharing it, I was like, oh, that's going to make it so much worse. I'll just try and solve it myself, and I would make it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
I remember like setting off, I was picking stones at my auntie's house, and I set off her house alarm.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a stupid example, but it kind of proves the point I'm trying to make. I set off the house alarm, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I'm going to have so much trouble. And I actually thought, what if I just set fire to a portion of the house? Then the fire alarm, and then it wouldn't be my fault. It would be like, oh, there was a fire, that's why. And then eventually my aunt just arrived, and she was like, oh, the alarm's gone off, and she just like turned it off. And I was like, oh, that was a really easy solution.
That escalated quickly in my mind.
When you're young,
yeah,
the things you will do to avoid a small problem will just create a much, much bigger problem.
I know. And I do think as well, maybe when I was younger, I don't think mental health was as openly discussed as it is now.
No, absolutely
I don't
not.
think
even like anxiety.
Yes.
Nobody mentioned anxiety.
Or you wouldn't have known what it was. I don't think anxiety even was a term that we used many years ago, whereas now I do think it's far more...
nerves. She suffers from nerves.
The nerves. Yeah, the nerves. So I do think it's far more, you know, there's no taboo around it anymore.
There's no stigma anymore.
Exactly. So I don't...
And look, there's dozens of articles every year on teenagers suffering from anxiety and depression. So you're not alone.
No.
There's loads of them out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Question here. How do I study for my exams? I'm in first year and have my first exams coming up next week before midterm, and I'm really nervous. How do I study for them?
Yeah, my lord.
I remember being in first year and chatting to my mate who was doing the junior cert, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, how are you?
There's so many subjects.
How are you coping, lad?
Yeah.
And then you get to your junior cert and you're like, it's not that bad, really.
Wow, I did not have that feeling.
Did you? No, well, I mean,
but there's multiple.
Every task before you do it seems huge.
Yes.
And then when you're thrown into it, you're like, oh, I'm actually doing this now. And then I was like, well, the leaving cert, that's the big one. And then you find yourself, you're able to do it. But everything that you haven't done seems impossible until you're right in the middle of it and you end up doing it. I
think exams, the pressure that's put on students, and I would like to think maybe it's changed a bit because the leaving cert and junior cert has kind of, you know, continual assessment involved in it now. In a way it didn't when we were in school. But I know the feeling I had in exams in junior cert and leaving cert. I don't think I've ever experienced something that intense on pressure in my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's wrong, and I don't think in any way you are wrong at all to feel how you do about it, because it is so incredibly intense, and the pressure wrongly put on people as though this is the most important exam of your life. It is not. And if I could go back in time to see this pressure put on the leaving cert of you'll never get anything in your life if you don't have it.
No.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
They never mentioned about the fact you could do level 7, level 6, you could do PLC, all these bloody, you know, option B, C, D, E, F, the whole alphabet.
I mean, you could take a year or so off and go travelling or...
And I regret that I didn't do that. Yeah, I had no life experience.
I feel like when I was, there was such a pressure to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 16. You're like, you need to know what you want to do with your life. I still haven't even
shifted someone. And you're wanting me to decide what to do the rest of my life.
There was such pressure to pick something. So you end up just like picking something out of panic.
Yeah.
And then you might get the points and then you find yourself in a college course where you're like, I don't think I actually want to do this. So there's nothing wrong with taking a bit of time, thinking about what it is you really enjoy doing, and then try and find a job that you actually enjoy, you know, trying to find a course.
And I regret, if I could go back in time, I would have taken a year out after school because I was too young going to college.
I would have 100% taken a year.
I was far too young going to college. I hadn't a clue what I was doing. I couldn't make my way around a city. I'd never used a bank machine.
Yeah.
I needed a year out to grow and be an adult. And
now,
I
your
think
parents would probably go nuts if they hear us giving you advice like this.
Yeah. We're not saying...
Because I know my mother would have gone, you're taking a year out.
They'll never go back. That's the logic.
If you don't know what you want to do... Take time to think. What are your hobbies? Is there a job that could relate to your hobbies,
Yeah.
or your passions?
But I do think, things change and people change. And if you do change your mind, there's no problem with that either. Don't feel, you've made a bad decision or that you've made a mistake. You haven't. That's just all part of life.
But the question, how do I study for my exams? That's a hard question because everyone's different. Like I would work, I'm very visually minded.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was trying to learn something, and I do this even if I'm learning lines for like a film or something, I will write it all out and then I will attach drawings to each sentence. So if the line is, I got an ice cream at the circus, I would draw a little picture of an ice cream and then a picture of the circus.
Wow.
And then for each sentence, I'd have little visual cues because when I'm down doing the exam, I can picture the images in my head first, and then that relates to the text.
That's very...
So that's how I used to study.
Yeah, because there's different things you can look up, kind of people that are more image based, or there are different
or audible
ways.
Based, yeah.
Yes, totally that. For me, it was even specifically there's colours for highlighters. I remember looking into this you will pick up on more, and the colour yellow for me as a highlighter was the only colour that I could use that it really stood out to me, and I could visually remember lining each sentence with that yellow highlighter. But for me, it's writing out the sentence repeatedly until I have it in my head.
Looking at the text and then writing it onto your copybook. Another thing that I used to do for learning lines is I'd record myself reading the text in a funny voice, and it weirdly sticks in your head. Like if the line is, how do I study for my exams? How do I study for my exams? And I would remember that weird line reading because it would make me kind of laugh a bit. Yeah. And that would make it sort of go into my memory.
Yeah. But there are ways to look into seeing what way your brain works. Your brain works to remember information. And there are different, if you look up online, you'll see articles that will tell you the different types of learner you are, and use that to maybe test and see which one works for you for studying for exams.
What do you got there?
How can I enjoy a festival if I'm feeling anxious about it?
Give me the context.
So this Friday night, I'm going to attend a music festival with my best friend. She really wants me to go with her, but I just feel kind of awkward because I am not really good with people and big crowds and everything, and I don't know how to feel. I'm going for her because we have already bought the tickets. What should I do there? Like, do I have to show that I really like it just for her? I feel really anxious, but I also feel really excited that I'm going because it's a really big thing. I, again, feel this so much now with going to nightclubs. And I remember going to Oxygen for the first time, and I only went on a day ticket because I was too afraid to go for the full weekend.
Why were you afraid?
I was a home bird anyway, but I was also just afraid of going to something that I'd never gone to, that I don't know what it's going to be. Like a festival for the first time, like I don't know what to expect because I have no comparison of this. I've never stayed away for 3 nights in a tent. Even that experience alone is like, how much to pack, and then my friends are going to see me in my pajamas. I don't know, is how I go to bed normal compared to them? Like a lot of things. And also I didn't drink, and I was very conscious of the fact of, would I not experience it the way my friends are?
Also, is there going to be a lot of pressure to drink?
Is there? Yeah, exactly that. And I definitely can relate to that because with nights out as well, I was very introverted, that I struggled with the idea of being around big crowds. So I totally get where this person's coming from. And also, again, because I'd be invited to things where my friends expected me to go, but internally I felt like, oh. Now, again, I do think any of my experiences where I did go, there was definitely times I didn't and I pulled out and I was like, I'm not going. But the times I did go, I definitely had bigged it up too much in my head for what it was going to be. Having your friends there absolutely is going to help already. And I also think there's a conversation possible there to open up to your friend about the fact, look, I've never gone to something like this before.
Oh, totally. That's probably the first thing to do, is just actually, there's nothing wrong with chatting to your friend and just saying like, I'm a bit nervous about this.
Yeah.
Never done anything like this before. What do I expect? Yeah. Is it going to be weird? Do you have to talk to people? Is there an anxiety of having to talk to strangers?
Yeah.
The thing is, you don't really chat much unless you actually go out of your way. Yeah. So it's totally optional. Yeah. You can just chat to your mate.
Completely. And I think if you have that conversation with your friend, be like, look, don't bloody wander off now on me.
Yeah.
We're in this together. you know how I'm feeling about it, so let's stick together on this one, and we'll be happy out. But equally, if it's something that you feel really overwhelmed by, I don't think you should feel weird about having that conversation with your friend to decide, do I go or do I not go?
Yeah.
But just know.
I was so excited to go to my first festival.
That's so interesting.
I was mad to go to it.
That's so, yeah, I was the exact opposite.
Really?
And neither is right or wrong. Like, it's so funny that, I was so introverted and scared about everything.
Oh my God.
And but then also there would be nights that I didn't go out to the nightclub and I sat at home being like, FOMO. Like, God, I should have gone to that thing. So you can't really, you're never going to make the right decision. There's going to be moments in both that you feel like a bit out of your comfort zone, but also opening up to your friend to be my first go-to there.
There you go. That's the first. That's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
So I got a question here. Why is my mother going through my stuff? My mother's going through my stuff, through my drawers, rooting through my stuff. Yeah, mammies will do that.
They will.
Some mammies will do that.
Yeah.
I suppose you have to think about her motivation. I don't know. I think if you just explain that, if you talk to your mom as an adult, she will hopefully treat you like an adult. And, you know, she probably still thinks of you as a kid.
And always will, by the way.
Always will.
Always will.
Yeah, she'll keep offering to give you sausages when you're 38 years old, leaving to go back to Dublin.
Yeah.
Just like, have you sausages? There's sausages in Dublin, man. It's fine. I don't need 16 sausages. I'm fine.
Yeah, I know.
But I think if you freak out and you act sort of hysterical or shouty, she's going to take that as A, you've got something to hide.
Totally.
And B, you are a child who are having a tantrum. So if you sit her down and talk to her as an adult, adult to adult, just like, Mom, you need to respect my privacy.
Yeah.
I understand your concerns, that you might think I'm getting into some dodgy stuff, but I need you to put some trust in me.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not doing nothing bold.
Yeah.
So just please respect my privacy.
Completely. And I think in that conversation you can ask, well, why are you looking? Is there something that you are suspicious about?
How about I go through your knicker drawer? How you like that? Huh?
There's no the sausages in here, man. What are you hiding
What's this
them
Karma
for?
Sutra book, huh? What's that? Who's Karma Sutra?
Lovely stuff.
Now you might be thinking, what can I do to support children and young people across Ireland? Well, for less than the cost of your daily flat white, you can make a real difference. By donating as little as €5 a month, you can help make childhood in Ireland better, happier and safer.
Just click the link in the episode description to support.
Ah,
And honestly, that's probably cheaper than a lot of flat whites.
it's cheaper than a pint, anyway.
There you go.
Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. Ugh, I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new buyability tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your buyability, only on Zillow.
Springfest deals are still in full swing at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 bags of Stay Green Premium Color 2 cubic foot mulch for only $10. And get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save up to $300 when you buy 2 or more select GE kitchen appliances of $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Question here, how can I feel better about eating and my body? And they've elaborated saying, why can't I stop vomiting the food I eat? I would try to eat with no intent of vomiting it far too much and I feel guilty and go throw it back up. I can't stop no matter how much I try. Again, this is something that I can relate to in that as a teenager I did suffer from anorexia and it developed into bulimia. And I think, you know, the pressures you feel as a child, as a young adult to look a certain way, and the pressures you're feeling from those around you in your school, as well as the media you're consuming and the ideal body type that's portrayed to you and feeling like I'll never be that, severely affected me. And I think it's a very hard one to even get into answering without having proper guidance and advice from a GP and from a medical professional. And I think I can only offer my experience with it, where, again, it was opening up to a trusted adult was the beginning of things starting to get better for me. And what worked for me may not work for you, and what you're advised to do may not work, and you may have to try a variety of different things. And that's one thing I'd really hammer home, is the idea that don't be disheartened if you try something to help and it doesn't actually work, because there's so many different ways to try and treat an eating disorder. And I think that affected me in the early stages of recovery, because it wasn't working for me, and medication didn't help me at the time, and different methods that I felt, oh, maybe I'm never going to get better. And I just would really try to emphasize that fact, if you are seeking help, that you may have to try a few things. It's not going to be
don't get disheartened if it doesn't
solve straight away. Because
Because
it's not an easy, quick fix thing. And it does take dedication. There was definitely times in my recovery that I relapsed and didn't want to get better, and it was a very long road. But this person, from the message they've sent in, it does sound like they're suffering from disordered eating, if not an eating disorder. And I do think talking to an adult about that and trying to get help will be the beginning of things getting better for you. And I fully understand where you're coming from. I obviously don't know this person's situation, but I just know the experiences I had with feeling the pressure of having to look a certain way, coupled with the pressure of school life, exams, all these things in my mind, it became this overwhelming feeling that it was like a distraction and a thing to take my mind off that. I could just focus on this one thing entirely. So I totally empathise with this person, and I really, really would emphasise, again, just trying to speak to an adult about it.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I probably naively thought eating disorders like anorexia is where you make yourself get sick. But is it possible that psychologically, you don't intend to get sick, but you just get sick every time you eat?
It does become a bit of a routine or repetitive, in that, like, that becomes the norm to you. And if you're doing it that often, that becomes like, this is what I have to do. It kind of actually is linked. I know, again, this is my own experience and my own information on it, that there are medications I were on for bulimia at one point are actually used for OCD, because there is a crossover. And I do think what you're describing there, it becomes kind of that repetitive thing in your mind that it has to happen. And if you don't get sick, bad thing. Again, I thought if I don't get sick, I will gain so much weight instantly. That's this overwhelming fear you have.
Yeah. But like this person, it sounds like they don't intend to get sick, but they can't hold food down.
That was the thing. I would always feel guilt after eating and after getting sick. You couldn't win. It was, if you ate, you felt guilty. And the only way to get rid of that feeling was to get sick. And the second you got sick, you also felt guilty. You couldn't win. It's a vicious cycle that is so, I think, something, and the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life is trying to recover from an eating disorder.
So what's the best advice you could give?
Absolutely talk to an adult about it and get professional help, because, again, what worked for me might not work for you. And it's not going to be an easy fix, and it's a complete lifestyle retraining of your brain and how you view food and your relationship with it. And it's not an overnight solution, and there's going to be good times and bad times. There's going to be relapses. There's going to be times, again, frustration with your parents, I think, because that was one thing I really suffered with, was feeling as though my parents were trying to take away this thing from me, and this was the only thing on my side. I felt like my parents were against me.
So say that again. So your parents trying to help you, you saw as they were taking something away from you.
I thought it was me and anorexia against the world, and how I viewed it was everyone was jealous of me, of how much I had my life in control. You believe you're so in control of everything, and I was so rigid of the workouts that I had to do, the things I had to do, the food I had to restrict less and less every single day. And if I wasn't eating less every day, I wasn't being good at anorexia.
Wow.
And it felt like the whole world was jealous and trying to take this one thing. It was anorexia was my friend. It was on my side.
Oh my God.
No one else
It sounds
was.
like an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's an absolute monster, and it would have killed me had my parents not
literally like
forced
eating
me.
away at you. Like,
Totally.
Yeah.
And had my parents not forced me, because I'll tell you this, I did not want to get better, and I did not want to get help, and I thought everyone was against me. And had they not intervened and repeatedly forced me to get help, because there was times I relapsed out of pure, I'm not getting better, they're not taking this away from me. And I cannot emphasize enough how hard having an eating disorder is on not only the person suffering, but the whole family.
Yeah.
Because it became at points, I know how hard in hindsight it was for my parents to have to keep forcing me because I did not want to get better, and how at any point they could have given up. They could have said, well, then go and do your thing. And I wouldn't be here today. That's fact. I would not be. And so it's something that really is not an easy fix. It's going to be a long road, and it at times will be you want to get better and you don't want to get better. And I truly cannot just emphasize enough how much better it is on the other side.
Yeah.
And there was times I didn't think that was possible and times I didn't want it. And when I look back now, it's so scary to think of how much that thing controlled and consumed me. And you think in the moment, oh, I'm in control of my eating disorder. No, you're not. Your eating disorder is in control of you. And it's a complete mind takeover.
I imagine it's much harder for teens nowadays because like we didn't have Instagram when we were in school.
I think there's two kind of ways. I think when we were younger, the kind of that idea of the model very, very, very thin was the only ideal body shape.
The only models were stick thin.
Stick thin,
Yeah,
the heroin chic they used to
Yeah.
call it. That was the look that they went for with models like Kate Moss and different people. I think nowadays there's been far more of an increase in the idea of body positivity.
Sure.
And that multiple body shapes are accepted. But I do also think that there has become an increase with consuming so much at the ease of your hand and your phone in it that we didn't have. So you're exposed to far more of the kind of ideal body shape that is completely unrealistic, as well as getting a bit of like body positivity. So it's a weird one. I tried to think of the comparisons of which was a harder time, but I just think there's so much more available online and kids have so much access, so much younger to consume really negative messaging about their bodies that I can't even imagine what it's like to go through now.
Yeah.
And because you're posting yourself online so much and you're being exposed to that wasn't really something we had as kids, as teenagers, and Bebo and picking your top 16. That was the biggest of our struggles, not having to like compete with your friends and how they look and that kind of thing.
Because I remember with Bebo, you were more comparing, because you could, on Bebo, Bebo was like a very early
it
was a very early social
days.
media site.
Yeah.
So with Bebo, you had some pictures up. You had your top
16 now,
16
yeah.
or 8? 16?
Whichever you wanted. If you had enough friends, you could go to 16.
I think I had like top 8 friends, and then you would put in your favorite music and
your flashbox,
your favorite music and your favorite films. So it felt like that's how you judged people.
Yeah.
Like you like 9 Inch Nails. You like Placebo. You're cool.
I can't even imagine what it's like to go through now, but I truly think early intervention is also one of the most key things, because had I not, at the point I was at in my eating disorder, it could have just developed.
Well, like an addiction, the longer you leave it, the harder it is to quit.
It is, because you're trying to retrain and unlearn the things you've learned as what is right and normal. So I really, really would emphasise getting help and talking to an adult about it and seeking treatment as soon as possible, and at a point when you're comfortable and able to do that.
Okay, I got one here. Terrified speaking in front of crowds. Over the past year, I felt terrified whenever I have to speak in front of a crowd. I get hot or cold, start sweating, my face turns red, and I feel completely helpless and almost numb. I understand that everyone experiences stress, but mine seems worse. Because of this, I avoid going to public places and talking to random people. I know it'd be easier to speak to somebody in person, parent or counsellor, but I do not want to. I've tried deep breathing exercises, not thinking about it, and thinking happy thoughts. Can you tell me if I have a mental health condition or is it just normal stress? I think when you're a teenager, talking in front of people is terrifying.
Oh, completely.
Like everyone, even like...
Still to this day, I am.
Like I remember, I had one particular class where it was tech drawn and you could kind of mess about in tech drawn. And I would mess about and I'd make jokes to the teacher. But then as soon as like he started talking back to me, my face would go bright red.
Yeah.
And I'd be terrified. So I was like, why am I putting myself in this position where I have to be, where I'm the center of attention and now I'm going to have a panic attack?
Yeah.
I think every teenager feels like that because you feel under scrutiny all the time. I don't know, what could you do
It's again, you've never experienced these things. I think that is a huge part of it. You've never been put in situations. And I'll say this, from like even doing stand-up or things, there's still nerves in the back of me.
Yeah, totally.
There's never like a feeling of completely at ease walking onto a stage with a load of people.
No.
And it kind of, in a way, you can use it to help you, because I think those nerves, in a way, if you can trick your brain, and it is truth that this happens, it's very closely linked to the feeling of excitement. And if you can tell yourself, this is actually good nerves, they're good nerves to have, that I'm excited about doing this, you can use it and channel it far more positively.
When I started doing stand-up, I would get incredibly nervous and anxious on stage. But I realised if you fake being confident, it looks the exact same as being confident.
Totally.
So if you can just pretend that you're comfortable, you will look comfortable, and then you will be comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there things you can do to help
I think practicing.
to sort of practice? Like, I mean, there's business people who take stand-up courses or who take improv courses. They've no intention of being a stand-up comedian. They just want to get comfortable talking in front of a crowd at their office and doing a presentation.
And it is a thing.
These are people, men in their mid-40s are doing stand-up courses because they're nervous about talking in front of crowds.
And I do think it's the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah. So I don't know. That might mean joining a class, maybe joining a poetry class or a social club or a stand-up course where you're in front of people in a safe environment, in a non-judgmental environment. Yeah. You're not thinking about the dickhead at the back of the class who's going to be sniggering at you and making jokes or throwing paper airplanes. Yeah. I don't know if kids still throw paper airplanes.
Yeah, good question. I saw one on the street the other week and I was like, God, it's been years since I saw you.
A relic from the early noughties. So it could be, if you're in an area that has courses like that, it could be worth your while joining one just to, as I said, get used to it in a safe environment.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it.
But to answer the question, do I have a mental health condition or is it just normal stress? I mean, I can't answer that. It's probably normal stress, if anything, slightly above average stress. But the point is, every teenager gets nervous when they're talking at the front of the classroom. And
still.
It's only a very small amount of people are really comfortable talking in front of strangers or talking in front of a class. So, yeah, try not to worry too much about it. Try and get some practice in, I suppose. And just, also, nobody gives a shit. I think that's the one thing. If I could have spoken to myself as a teenager for literally every problem I have, it could be answered, listen, man, nobody gives a shit. Like, everyone's thinking about themselves and their own worries and their own stresses. Nobody is scrutinizing you, going like, oh, I see them sweating up there. Yeah. A bead of sweat rolling down their face. That's so embarrassing. Nobody cares.
And the second it's over, it's forgotten.
It's immediately forgotten. And also, secondary school seems like the world when you're in it. Yeah. It seems like the most important event and moment of your life. And when you get to college, it's such a blip.
It's hilarious to me because I think all of secondary school, it felt like everyone wants to be the same and fit in. And the second I got to college, I'd spent years working on that. And I get to college and it's suddenly everyone has to be unique.
Everyone wants to be different.
And I'm like, what? I only just got my head around the other thing. I just got this Coldplay
CD for nothing.
So that is so true.
Yeah. And if you're in secondary school and you're like, oh man, I'm the biggest loser in this school. I wish I was cool like Jeremy Brady, the star footballer. Believe me, in 3 years' time when you're in college, Jeremy Brady is not the coolest guy.
No.
JB. And yeah, sometimes the biggest nerds and the biggest, I don't want to say losers, but if you feel...
You're looking at it right here. Like, honestly.
Yeah, you can feel like the biggest loser in secondary school. And then like you hit your 20s and... you find your own tribe. Yeah. You find people... I mean, secondary school, you're lumped in with people who literally, the only thing you have in common with them is you're from the same area.
Your address.
Your address is the only thing you have in common with these people. And it can be hard to find a group of friends.
Totally, because you feel in those moments, because I'm not making friends, there's something wrong with me. I'm like, no.
No, you just need to get out.
Yeah.
And then you go to college and you find, first of all, you're surrounded by people who are studying the same thing as you. So you've got that in common
Bit of an
straight away.
interest already, yeah.
So, and then you find people who have even more nicher interests that you also share. And then suddenly you've got this whole tribe of people that are your new family.
Yeah.
And they don't give a shit about what you were like in secondary school. It's such a blip in the timeline of your life. You'll barely remember it. It's so small.
I know, but when you're going through it, it's so hard. It's so hard to say that to someone when they're going through it, though. In the same way with exams, it used to feel like, you've nothing to worry about. Like an uncle would say that to me, and I'm like, you're 67, Tom. What have you got to know about the Leaving Cert anymore? You know? But I think whatever you feel, you're not wrong to feel that way, and don't let someone... somebody, you've known your whole life you had here. You're like, you don't know what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, of course. It can seem like it's moving along at a glacial pace. Yeah. But I know I don't want to sound like Uncle fucking Miley.
No, but it's so true.
But what I mean is, if you can just stick it out.
Totally.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and that's the thing I'll say from being on the good side. I know people who said that to me during it, and I was like, what do you know? And now I'm like, oh, you did know, actually. You knew right well.
Uncle
like,
Jimmy.
Not Uncle Tom, he hadn't a notion about the Leaving Cert, but people saying it will, and it does get better. It truly, truly does.
So, last question here. Why does getting drunk feels so good? That's literally how it was written, was S. It sounds like they were drunk when they typed it.
Yeah.
Why does getting drunk feel so good? Mm-hmm. Why does getting drunk feel so good? I really like alcohol, socializing, and I feel really bad because I'm a girl.
Oh.
That's a strange
one.
Well, obviously, we don't want to condone underage drinking.
No, absolutely not.
Hope you're not underage. But the girl thing,
I think it might be the idea that it's more sometimes acceptable socially for a man
culture
to be loving, having all the drink, less so on a girl. And I actually can relate to that in a country setting where it was more like, the lad, but not a lady. A lady could never drink,
I remember if a girl ordered a pint of Guinness in certain pubs. Yeah. There would be eyebrows raised.
Oh, I've had that happen to me. Yeah. Would people now I'm talking about in my 20s and 30s.
Is this for your father? Yeah, are you bringing this home for your father?
Even in my 20s and 30s ordering that, and lad would be like, that's an old fella's drink. What are you drinking that for?
Yeah.
It does get a raised brow.
We just want to preface it by saying we don't condone or encourage underage drinking, but it's a part of teenage life.
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you not?
I didn't drink underage. I
drink?
was 18 when I had my first drink. Now, my logic was the Leaving Cert, because I was super study focused. I was like, it's going to kill brain cells. Now, it does. Thing is, it replenishes brain cells as well, like new ones form. But I stuck through with it, and I was like, I didn't want to, and I went on nights out where I didn't drink. And I had nothing, there wasn't the feeling of missing out, because I didn't know what that feeling was like. So I didn't feel like, God, if only I had a few pints in me now, because I was like, I don't know what that does to one. I don't know what that feeling is.
It's a dodgy one, because if all your mates are drinking,
I felt that pressure.
You feel huge pressure to be drinking with them.
The thing is, there wasn't non-alcoholics then.
Oh yeah.
In the way that I think there is now.
There might have been Erdinger. That was it. And nobody would drink Erdinger with alcohol, so it was weird to drink it But yeah, the non-alcohols are class now. The Guinness Zero tastes exactly like Guinness.
Unreal.
Heineken Zero tastes exactly like Heineken. So there is that option if you're feeling pressure. Just get a fucking zero.
Yeah.
Don't say it to you. But if somebody, it's easy looking back in hindsight. But peer pressure is so big when you're a teenager. But then when you reach your 20s, you get such a level of confidence that if anyone tries to pressure you into anything, you just tell them to piss off.
Yeah.
And you suddenly, it's cool to be able to stick up. To be able to stick up for yourself is cool.
Completely.
If you can manage it. It's very, very hard when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
But the question, why does getting drunk feel so good? I suppose it literally, it dulls your brain. So you revert.
You feel more calm, as in, I can't even describe it.
Yeah, but then you need to know when to stop.
Yes.
And that takes practice.
Completely.
Because the first few times you're just drinking, you're like, hey, this feels great. And then it doesn't feel great. Mm-hmm. And then you're asleep covered in sick.
Yeah.
And you've missed the bus and somebody stole your jacket.
And then because alcohol is also depressant, you wake up and you feel very, very down.
Yes.
And you're anxious and you have the fear.
Then you have to text everyone you've ever met to make sure if you did anything bad.
Yeah. So there's a lot of downsides as well to it.
So I think take it slow.
Yeah.
Take it real slow.
Yeah.
Because you will, you definitely, the first couple of times, you'll drink too much and then make an absolute bollocks of yourself.
Yeah. First couple of years for me, I'd say. But
once you hit 30, you'll get a handle on it.
You'll have it figured out, kind of.
So, I mean, that's all the time we have today, Justine. Very sorry if we didn't get a chance to read out your questions. There was loads of them sent in.
Yeah.
But we just had to sort of
talk from our own experience as well.
Yeah,
things we felt more equipped to answer.
Exactly.
Lovely stuff.
Thank you so much for listening to this special Childline episode of The Lovely Show. We hope you enjoyed this brief insight into the amazing work Childline volunteers do every single day. And remember,
if you or someone you know needs someone to talk to, Childline is always there. Any reason, anytime. Childline by ISPCC is dedicated to making childhood better, happier and safer for children across Ireland. If you'd like to support their vital work, please visit the link in the episode description to donate or head over to www.ispcc.ie for more information.
Thank you again for listening and we will see you next time on The Lovely Show.
This show is part of the HeadStuff Podcast Network, a hub for the creative and the curious. Shows are produced in association with HeadStuff and the Podcast Studios Dublin. Find out more or become a member at headstuffpodcasts.com.